Are you guys ready for me?
Yeah.
Ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's 5:30. We're going to call our finance meeting to order. So if we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just can we have a roll call, please? Present.
Here.
Present.
Here.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for January 11th, 2021, with the members of the committee reserving the right to add to the agenda and take further action in the best interest of the district?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from December 15th, 2020?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Okay. Our first item up for discussion is our audit, and we have Jeff Weiss here to do that for us.
I'm actually going to turn it over to Rachel Gallagher. Let her do it.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
So I'm Rachel Gallagher. I was the senior in charge through the audit this year. I just want to start by thanking Tom, Diane, everyone in finance. We did most of it remote. I was only here maybe a day or two due to the pandemic. We did a lot electronically this year, so it took a little extra effort by everybody. So we appreciate that, navigating the new way of our audits this year. So if you want to just flip to, I don't know if you guys have the report or not in front of
We
you.
do.
Pages 1 through 3, this is our audit opinion. It states that you have an unmodified report, which means everything's fairly presented in all material respect. If you take a look at page 2, under the emphasis of matter paragraph, there's a small paragraph referencing note 16, which is the subsequent event. That's just outlining the pandemic and the possible effects you could have on the district. Pages 4 through 11, this is management's discussion and analysis. We don't audit this, we just check it to make sure there's no conflicting information with the rest of your financials. It goes through about what occurred throughout the year. It's something good to just read through to get a better background and understanding of your report. So we'll skip to page 12 and 13. These are your government-wide statements, which the first column, governmental activities, these are your general funds, capital projects, and special revenue funds all put together. This includes your long-term assets such as capital assets, deferred outflows, and your long-term liabilities such as pension, OPEB, and long-term debt. The business type column is your food service fund, which we'll go over in a couple pages. The main thing we want to point out is your unrestricted net position is a deficit of 174 million approximately. Out of that, it's important to note that your net pension liability is about 215 million, and your net OPEB obligation, which is your other post-employment benefits such as healthcare, is 41 million. So those are the two main items really driving down your net position. What most people want to talk about is page 14. This is your governmental funds. Mainly the first column is your general fund. That's your main operating fund of the district. Important number on this page is fund balance of 49 million. This is about an increase of 3.4 million from the prior year. Or sorry, 2.7 million from the prior year. Out of the 49 million, you have about 6 million unassigned. We can reference back to page 54, which we'll get to later. That will detail what makes up your $49 million. So all of it's committed or assigned or restricted except for about $6 million. Page 15 is reconciliation. That's how we get from the fund level to government-wide. Page 16 is your operating statement of revenues, expenditures, fund balance. That's where you'll see an increase in fund balance of 2.7 million. That was
What page is that?
page 16.
16?
Yep.
Thank you.
So your increase of 2.7 million, that's pretty much due to the fact that you had a decrease of expenditures from prior year of from what you budgeted for about 3.4 million, which we can go over when we talk about the budget. Page 18, 19, and 20. This is your proprietary fund, food service fund, cafeteria fund. This is shown on the government-wide basis. So in the net position of 5.3 million deficit, you do have about 6 million of net pension liability and other post-employment benefits. So that's really what's bringing down that net position. Page 19 is your statement of revenues. It shows your revenues and expenditures for the food service fund. All right, we'll go to page 21. These are your fiduciary funds, such as your scholarship funds, student activity funds, concession funds. I want to highlight the agency funds. Next year, GASB 84 will go into effect, which will change these from agency funds to custodial funds. Right now, we only show a balance sheet, an asset, and a liability. Next year, they'll change to a special revenue fund or a custodial fund, and we'll have to show a statement of revenues and expenses. So I know Tom and Diane have went over that a little bit about how to make those changes for next year.
So that's just a government accounting fund that they want to change the way that they
Yeah.
manage. Okay.
Yeah, it was supposed to be done this year, but due to the pandemic, it was pushed a year.
Okay.
So pages 23 to 54, these are your financial statement notes. The first section, note 1, basically talks about the school's operations and some policies that help readers understand your district a little bit better. In note 1, if you skip to page 30, we talk about the adoption of governmental accounting standards and pending changes, which I just mentioned. This year, the major one that was adopted was GASB 95. That postponed certain GASBs due to the pandemic. It was just thought that it'd be easier on governments to delay the implementation and not have any major changes, especially during the year of uncertainty. So as I just said, next year, GASB 84 will go into effect. So that will add a new statement into your statements. And in 2 years, GASB 87 is leases. Currently, that will change all of your operating leases to capital leases. Shouldn't be a big deal for the district. You don't really have any significant operating leases. That's really about it that's coming down in the next couple of years that'll affect the statements. All right. Let's jump to page 40. Everything in between is just different notes detailing parts of the financials. Page 40 starts your pension plan. This is the plans for teasers that you have, and this just details plan outlines and different parts of the pension plan. Page 44, one thing to note for teasers is, I'm sure you guys are aware, as of July 1st, any new employees cannot enroll into the standalone defined benefit plan. Teasers has new hybrid options for new employees hired in the Teasers plan after July 1st, 19. So that's a significant change, just as the plan as a whole. Note 11, other post-employment benefit. This is the Teasers healthcare option. I think we started disclosing it maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So the next couple pages just outline different details of that OPEB plan within Teasers. Page 49 is your other post-employment benefit single employer plan. This is the standalone district plan for healthcare for retirees, and set up the same format as the other OPEB note. The following pages just details the plan. Page 54. I referenced the fund balance earlier. You can see note 15. This breaks out where your fund balance is assigned, committed, or restricted. And note 16 is the subsequent event note that I briefly touched on. We're required to disclose anything major that would affect the school or happen to the school from June 30th to our report date, which was December 15th. The district took out a refunding bond in September, so we have that disclosed. And then there's a general paragraph regarding the pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainties as to just how much the pandemic is affecting. So it's important that readers know there could be a significant impact for the future. Page 55 is the budgetary comparison schedule for general fund. It's a required statement to have in your financials. If you look all the way to the right, your total revenues were $730,000 under budget, and your expenditures were about $3.4 million under budget. The main items that came in under budget would be operation and maintenance of plant, student activities and athletics, and debt service came in about $320,000 under budget. The next couple pages are just additional required schedules, mostly to do with pension and OPEB, and they give a little bit of a historical background on those plans. If you want to jump to page 62, this is the school's single audit report. In addition to the financial statements, we test compliance over internal control and compliance with federal program. This year, you had a clean audit opinion, no findings. We tested Title I with our major program through calculations and formulas. We test different programs every year, just depending on how much money was spent. Page 66 is your complete schedule of expenditures, federal awards. This lists all of your federal dollars and what the expenditures were as of June 30th, 2020. And the pages behind that just note we tested Title I with no findings and no compliance issues. That's it. I think we went through it all. Anybody have questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, are your names in the report here anywhere?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you, you're the two that were responsible for this report, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is your name anywhere in this report?
No, the firm issues it, so it's the firm is the signatory.
Okay, I understand that. I just wanted to know who was who here, you know?
Well, we can give you business cards.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Kudos to Tom and his team for doing a good
Job well
job,
done.
even despite every challenge that was thrown at him this year.
Yeah, I'll second what Rachel said. I mean, it's been interesting on all of our clients and learning to do it and working with everybody, and, you know, it worked out well. Things went smoothly, and Tom and the entire group, and we really appreciate it to get it done.
Thank you. And they're fantastic to work with. They're very patient with us, trying to get the information. And like we said, this year was a little more difficult getting information to them back and forth with the emails. Sometimes it got confusing, but they did a fantastic job, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The computer bid results is our next item up for discussion.
You want to go first, Brian? You're going to go first?
Yeah. Yeah, so, as we mentioned at last month.
Thank you, sir.
Meeting, we did go out to bid for devices, we did get, bid prices back. Spoiled it real quick. The HP equipment, we had only 10 vendors bid Staples was the lowest at 119,643.35. Chromebooks, we had about 12 or 13 bid again on that one. Lowest vendor came was SHI. And the HP equipment is for the elementary schools. They're up to the 40 replacement, so that's the office machines, what the HP gear is for. The Chromebooks are, we have injection points for first, fifth, and ninth grade, and we have that device for 4 years. That's what Chromebooks are for. The third item you have is the Apple quote, and what those Apple devices are for are primarily the majority of them are the teacher devices for the elementary teachers. We removed all the iMac labs in the elementary school, so they're not being replaced. So there's only 6 iMacs on there. That's one for each library, for the library uses that. So there's a significant savings there. I got the quote from Apple Financial for leasing, 0%, and I'm out the bid for RFQ for the leases for the other items, and they came in favorable as well.
I had a question,
Teachers
too.
are teachers are getting 295 of them are going to teachers.
They're your elementary teachers, yes.
And they're going through the,
6 elementary schools.
okay. And you're going with the ones from 2019 versus 2020?
Where do you see
Is that,
2000?
that's the retina one, right? That's the retina screen or
Where do you see 2000?
4K screen
Yeah.
versus a 5K screen? That's
Yeah.
another.
Yeah, that's sufficient.
I have to go, I went on the internet to take a look at it.
That's sufficient for what their need is and what I think they'll be able to need out of that device for 4 years.
I had a question.
Yes.
So they don't give us a discount at all, or they give, for these computers here, the MacBooks, if I went on to like Apple and typed in, because I get a corporate discount for my job, they give us like 5 or 10% off. They're not giving us any better discount that I can go in as a person to buy them. And we're buying 295 computers.
Yes, and Apple is their sole source provider for K-12 education. So
You would think that they would,
we've gotten discounts in the past.
they literally gave us $10 off.
I mean, one thing I can tell you with Apple, I've been dealing with Apple here for 12 and a half years. They dealt with them for 4 years prior to here in 2 other school districts.
Mhm.
They're very stingy with discounts, and that's just the way
And
it
we have
is.
to use Apple for our computers for the K through 12. We
That's
have
the way
to.
that's the way the curriculum's written. So, we can plan for the next cycle to move away from Apple. That's certainly possible, but
Right.
given the state of events right now, I'm not sure that's.
No, I understand that, but I'm
Yeah.
just curious that we're buying 295 computers and they give us $10 off.
Versus your discount. The
Right, if I went in-
General public, it's like $100 and something off. But
Yeah,
You're right, absolutely, like, that, it's crazy, right?
yeah,
Yeah, because the list price is $1249.
yeah, exactly. $12.49 is the list price. They give us $10.
Yeah, and actually, there's a little part of that is what they claim is that we're buying them in 5 packs, so that's why we're getting that additional.
$10.
Yeah.
They should give us a 3-year warranty for free instead of charge us another $149 per computer for a warranty. It's ridiculous. I'm like shocked.
Well, and the new thing Apple's doing is if you buy an iPhone, you don't get a charger with it anymore. You have to buy it separate. So they're really,
Nickeling and diming you.
yes, they are, which is unfortunate.
But the charging kit, the accessory kit is included with this.
For us, yes.
Right. Well,
You-
even for me, I just bought one, I'm waiting for it. The almost same model that you spec, except not as much RAM because I can't afford that much. But I mean, the 7-core, 7B, 16 thing, but just 5.
Well, what we've been doing the last 2 or 3 years, we've been buying an additional charger for everyone.
I see that.
Because depending on how either a teacher has their classroom set up or a guidance counselor set up in an office or a nurse or a principal or whoever, secretary, it's just not conducive to unplug that, wrap it up every night. And with that travel and wrapping it up and all that, that's going to be more conducive to additional damage and tear and bending of the wire.
I
So,
wish my job would think that way and give me more than one charger for my laptop.
so,
That's what I mean.
but then if they break one,
That's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
So,
Now, I noticed that you went with the Thunderbolt 3 mini dock.
yeah, and so that's an aggregator in their classroom because at the elementary school, all the teachers have a short throw Epson projector.
Mhm.
They now have those second monitors.
Right,
In addition, they have the document camera.
right.
So that box will aggregate all that and hook into their Mac.
Yeah, I bought an Anchor device that passes through the power, the PD, back to the machine. So the same charger passes the power through that back to the Thunderbolt, because there's only two, you have to make decisions on that. But it's $30 versus $120 something. The difference is, there's a couple differences. You have to remember that that's the power one, and, like, it needs a more higher voltage than comes with the Mac itself. And
Yep. Yeah, so.
yeah, I understand the reason to make it easy, but
Yeah, you have four, so you basically are gonna have four things plugged in. You're gonna have the monitor,
right,
the second monitor. With the short throw, you have a USB and an HDMI. So the USB is for the interactive part of the display. The HDMI is for the video and the audio, and then now the document camera as well.
Mhm.
So you have a lot of stuff running
plugged
through that.
into that.
Anthony can speak to this. We bought how many a year and a half ago till we found the right one?
We tried 3 or 4 of the cheaper models, and there was always a quirk with one of them.
Mhm.
It was supposed to pass power and it wouldn't. It was supposed to pass multiple displays and it wouldn't.
Right.
Everything that it said that it would be, it was not. Which led us to what Apple suggests on their own site, and we've had no issues.
Does this also tie to the projector?
Yes.
The whiteboard, okay.
Yep, it'll tie into all the digital
And
tools the
children?
teacher has in her classroom.
It has to work. I mean, that's the other piece.
Who were the two 16-inch MacBooks for? Because we're earning 295 13-inch MacBooks.
They are for, I believe they're for the building technicians who have to image devices and maintain everything. Just give me 1 second. I can tell you exactly who they're
Okay.
for. Yes, they are for, so we have a building tech that takes care of 3 elementaries each
It's their
respectively.
laptops that they just take with them, okay.
Yep. And as far as financing, I'll let Tom speak to that, but I think we did really well on financing too.
As you can see on the last page is the financing. There was a 611 form, but I must have not sent it. I apologize for that. I'll have to make sure it's in the board documents. As you can see, there were 7 bidders out of 11 that we sent them out to. We've dealt with some of these vendors before and some we have not. American Capital is the lowest number, not by much. And First American, we both have had leases with them in the past. The one difference, just want to let the board know in case you want to make a decision. American Capital is a broker, so they'll be selling this off to someone else, possibly. And where the other vendors below are banks, and they'll house the lease the whole time. But other than that, it's just under $1,000 less than First American, and that's it. Pretty
So-
simple.
So we didn't budget this either then, right?
It's in the budget, right?
It's in the budget, yes. So actually, thank you for bringing that up. The budget we're in right now, this is our first cut in the budget. This here saved us $94,000 a year by going out to lease with this Brian's aggressive pricing with the vendors, and then we getting the great lease rate of 1.354.
So the previous lease that we had for the teachers, I had their 295 apples. They turned those in Or do they get to buy them? Because I see, we could, the dollar purchase option. So what do we do with the ones that are,
We sell them to recycling company. And the reason we don't offer them to staff first, there's a couple reasons. So the first reason is, if we're gonna sell devices, it should be offered to taxpayers only, is my opinion.
right, we have to wipe them clean and all that?
Yep. The second part is, we have to wipe them clean. We can't sell the software because the software is licensed to the district, the operating system. The third thing is, prior to Chris Brown, Tom Dervonis' opinion was, when I asked him about selling stuff, is do not sell anything electrical so the district does not assume any liability should somebody's house catch on fire. And I think if that happened, we'd both feel pretty bad about it. So that's kind of where I'm at. My advice is we get a pretty good deal on the equipment that we sell to recyclers. And we just sold some equipment that we'll be getting checked in here this week or next. And I think that's the best bet. It goes to them. They wipe the data. We get a DOD certificate that it's been Department of Defense certified wipe, that there's no data whatsoever on a hard drive, and they either resell them. Sometimes they go to third world countries. Different things happen with those devices, but that's I've found in my 17 years of doing this, that's the best route.
I would love it if we could actually know who we were donating them to, if we, to some school overseas that really needed it or something like that. If we could wipe them and say, East Stroudsburg Area School District donated 295 Apple computers to, Africa or something,
We're getting money for them, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we recycled what this past year we did the max at the intermediate schools and again 1, 5, and 9. So all that equipment that went back, the Chromebooks don't have a lot of value and they're usually not in the best of shape after students have them for 4 years.
Could we wipe them and donate them now?
You could,
Actually,
but then so we'll be getting a check for $72,000 to $74,000
okay.
on to answer your question on what was turned in, what rolled forward with JTL and Lehman. So depending on what school is done and what year, you would be missing out on what I would consider a significant amount of revenue. So
That's, okay.
So we get about $30 to $40 per Chromebook back?
I can give you the exact, I can share with you what we got. There were some Macs on there that were $150 and there were Chromebooks anywhere from 0 to 25. But they graded, they have like a grade A, B, C, D, and they go over everything. So, yeah, the way we're doing it right now, I feel like we have the least liability for the district, and we're able to generate the most amount of revenue for
I guess
the
if we
assets.
donated it and something happened too, we're liable. Someone could come back and say, oh.
I always go back to Tom's thought. If you have anything electrical, don't sell it at a yard sale to
Or
the
don't
taxpayer.
donate it, don't just recycle it, okay.
So,
And then for the other computers, the Chromebooks, we only use Lenovo, is there a reason why we only use the Lenovo, or however you say that?
Lenovo. Yeah. So probably going back 6 years when we first started buying Chromebooks, maybe it's even longer at this point. It was a year that the high schools were going to be getting them, and that was before they were given to the students that when we just got them in carts. I think I had 12 or 13 of them, different manufacturers, different models. We had them actually set up in this room. Teachers from High School South came over, they evaluated them, they filled out a sheet. Then we took them up to High School North, teachers evaluated them, they filled out a sheet, and they all liked the Lenovo device. We stayed with that model for probably 3 or 4 years. The model changed. We looked at the IU had an event there where they had HP, Lenovo, Dell. The current one we have is the most durable.
That's what I was gonna say, it seems more durable.
Yeah. So that's where durability and battery life, but I think durability is going to win over battery life because if they're always breaking, it doesn't matter if you can get an extra hour out of the battery if the device isn't as stable. So
And those kids are tough on them.
they're tough, but you know what? Surprisingly, damage-wise, it's not as bad as you think. Especially this last year when now that they're going home K-12.
Aren't they an IBM company?
Yes.
That's what-
Yeah, and to note, what we've been doing, the last year and this year, they do have, that accidental device protection on them. So if there is some type of, if a student drops or whatever, it's usually covered under that program. So, that's kind of our way of ensuring them.
Do you have kind of a record of the number of ones that were dropped and damaged that way and versus the cost of replacement, So-
We did pre-COVID, and then things got a little crazy because
Sure.
keep in mind, we didn't issue K to 5, well, K to 4, we
Right.
didn't issue any devices. So we were getting all those devices, and it was, but eventually where I want to get is that we are a self-maintainer program, and those that we get to make the decision on those accidental device protection as well as warranty, and we can become a self-maintainer. So instead of us sending them to an E+ or a CDW or an Integra for them to do the warranty work, we can do it in-house, and then we get paid for it.
Okay,
So that's the end goal, and that'll work well with one company. I know, I talked to the woman at Bethlehem School District, they're doing it down there, but they've been struggling with parts, so they've been sending them out. They're getting broken parts in.
right, that's not good.
No, so whoever's fixing them's not getting broken parts, so.
Right.
So do we, so like when our 8th grader's done with their computer, they turn it in, that's recycled? Or do we actually go through and say, this one's okay, we could probably keep it as a backup?
We've kept 8th grade and 12th grade ones as spares right now. And, obviously if there's some damage or there's any type of issues where we'll give them an older, we won't give them the same model they had. If there's been a couple circumstances, we'll give them an older model. But yeah, we do hang on to some. Some we recycle, some we'll keep as parts, some we'll keep for replacement. So, and what's good is, out of all the Lenovo's we have out there, there's 3 models. So, and we build in like a 10 to 12, I think 12% for spares, and if there's additional increase in students, so that's built in as well. So I think we're amply covered, and getting that accidental device protection has been huge last year and this year. My only regret is I wish we'd got it sooner, because that'll phase in over 4 years then.
Since we're not, since we're paying for the accidental damage device, we're not charging the kids or the parents then if they drop them.
Only if it's covered under that. So if a kid takes it and just,
Gets mad at their classwork and throws it against the wall and it shatters apart.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they cover a lot of stuff. I'm actually surprised at some of the stuff they've covered. But once we bring that in-house, we have a little more control over that too. So we get to make the decision, not somebody, at an E+ or CDW or whatever that services them. But yes, to answer your question, if it can be covered under that, there's no charge.
Are there
We're not
deductibles?
charging them, to be honest with you.
No,
So it's not like your iPhone if it's deductible, okay.
nope, there's no charge. Now for the older devices, we're trying to phase that out, because I don't want to hit anybody up with a bill if it's something accidental. If they're getting out of the car at school and it slides out of the bag and something like that, so.
And not with the economy the way it is right
No.
now with these parents, yeah.
No,
If I could, I'd just like to thank Brian. You've all seen Brian do these presentations any number of times over the years, and I don't think there's one time where Brian has come where he hasn't saved the district money. I also thank you as a board, because we can't ignore the situation we've been in since March and the success of our district because of the work Brian and his team and you as a board have put behind these devices. So I think it's important to just take a moment and recognize that it's these decisions like tonight that you're making that has allowed East Stroudsburg School District to really shine when it comes to providing our students with the resources in our current pandemic. And Brian, you've always come with with costs that are competitive, and you always seem to save money. So I just want to recognize you for that.
Thanks, thank you.
So this did come in $94,000 less than we had budgeted for this year.
Correct.
94,111,01 to be
Right there,
precise.
right?
Oh, wait a
For
minute.
next school year, not the current, not what we're in currently, what the budget I presented back in December.
Also, we made it, so
For
we're a little
the-
closer now.
Yes, correct.
A little bit
We saved,
closer,
yeah, we're down, we saved $100,000 so far.
a little bit closer.
808 million.
I thought that's a little
It's
bit,
1% we cut.
Right.
hey, thank you.
And we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, every little bit counts.
All right, I didn't understand that, Tom. We're saving 90-some thousand, how?
What we budgeted. So when Brian initially put his budget proposal together, we presented back in December
Okay,
for the 21-22 school year. Once all the quotes came back in, and then when we went out to bid for the leasing and with the low rate we got, so it was a combination of both. It was the competitive pricing Brian received, and then the competitive pricing on the financing was $95,000 less than what we planned on spending.
what you anticipated.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And I wasn't expecting the lease, I wasn't expecting Apple to come back at 0. I thought 0.9, 0.75. I had factored in the other leases probably around 2%. So, and I kind of budgeted, I added a little bit of inflation on what we paid last year on some devices. And I'm happy with how everything came in. Again, Apple's a little stingy, but for the most part, overall, we save money based on what I originally had forecast, including the financing. So I'm happy with that. And the good thing about doing this now is I'm being told there's a 4 to 6 month lead time on devices and component. The glass is the big thing for monitors right now. So this gets us in the queue ahead of a lot of other people so that we can make sure we have these devices by July or August. If they come in by the first week in August, I'll be thrilled with that. At this point, the way things are going.
Thanks, Brian.
That works.
So thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the additional licenses for ESASD elementary software through Ingenuity. I know I was emailed this by being on the education committee.
We can't do anything on this, so
Why?
it doesn't come up into the committee for,
It did.
what, in education?
Yeah, we did. We discussed it as a group.
Because I saw it on my education stuff.
It is, but we did an email out and we discussed it through email if we were okay putting it through here because we need to
Okay.
do it
No
sooner.
problem. I thought, because the meeting for
Yeah.
Wednesday, it had it in it for
Mhm.
that, and I didn't remember going. I have no problem with that.
All right, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
There he is.
Great, thank you. Good evening. So I just want to make note, there was a slight typo on the agenda. The total amount is not 64,000 flat, it's 64,400. And this invoice represents the additional license or seats, if you want to call it, that we required after the start of the school year. So we negotiated with Ingenuity to in the beginning of the summer, knowing that we were going to have a lot of students in cyber. They gave us a reduced price on licenses in the elementary program. And I also asked them if they would just kind of give us carte blanche to allow us to enroll as many students as we needed without having to come back and forth to request purchase orders and such. We ended up committing to the first 300 students. And as you know, we've got nearly 1,000 in. So Ingenuity came back in December, did a recount, and has charged us for the difference. And that's what this number represents. It's the additional students that we didn't pay at the beginning of the school year. The discounted rate, just so you know, for all these students is $200 per student. We were paying $1,000 per student last year. We went to Edgenuity, so you know, in the beginning of the summer and told them we expected a large number of students to join our cyber program. I had estimated at that time around 1,500, in which they gave us these price extensions. And of course, you know, we came back with nearly 3,000.
Were these budgeted?
George, these are not budgeted, but they're being paid for through the ESSERS grants because these are a direct result of the pandemic.
Okay, thank you.
Have
had
we
no
had a
way-
lot more enrollment since we're going back to hybrid next week? Have we had more people during this period of time decide to enroll?
What I saw as of 2 days ago, it was about 25 people wanting to go back to cyber or wishing to go to cyber, and probably about that many wishing to go to brick and mortar. So it's pretty flat with not a whole lot of activity on either side. I think that's a good sign.
Here again, I just want to thank Bill. I know one phone call, he got them to reduce the price from last year from 1,000 per student to 200. So that's about $250,000, $57,000 less based on this number. And I also just would add, this amount would be equivalent to approximately 2 to 3 students going to a cyber charter that we would be paying at least this amount, if not more. So it's a big number, but it's relatively small considering what it would be otherwise. So thank you, Doc Vituli, for saving that money for the district and doing a great job of making that call and getting them to reduce that amount.
Thank you.
So every time, if we have more kids that decide to go to a soccer, it'll be just $200 into the budget. So if, you know, one goes back brick and mortar and decides 2 weeks later that they don't want them there, they're not comfortable, they can just switch them back?
We can switch them back, yes. And I think what'll happen is Edgenuity will come back probably in March. Once again, check our account. Are we higher or lower than where we are today? If we're higher than where we are today, they'll charge us the $200 per kid. If we're less, then we're good.
Will they give us a refund?
No.
Hey, can't fault me for asking, right?
No, I cannot.
You don't get it if you don't ask.
All right.
Right.
All right.
All right, so then on the Munis sheet here, it says that remaining budget was negative 85,000, right?
I saw that.
85,800. Is that correct, Tom?
I don't know, what do you?
Well, it's attached here,
To the Ingenuity bill?
yeah, with the Ingenuity.
We made other approvals to add more licenses to Edgenuity, right, in previous meetings?
I believe so.
So they may not have made a budget adjustment yet?
Correct, yes, we probably did not move the budget over to that account, correct?
Like this is 64,400. Yep.
Okay, because it says remaining budget and it's a negative number. So then the 64,000 is going to make it that a bigger number, right? A bigger negative.
Which one are you looking at? I don't have that one.
I'd have to look at it, because I don't have that in front of me.
Can I pass it to you? If you can see it, I don't know.
I believe it's very likely that we haven't applied any of the ESSERS funds towards these budgets, right?
And these all, I think, Larry, you're looking at the Education Program and Resources Committee meeting, their sheets for that one?
It's the sheet I got in the packet.
Yeah.
I don't have that one though. Mine's different.
Okay.
So it's in this one for the
Oh,
This is
I don't have that with me
Education
either.
Yeah,
Program.
we don't have it.
Yeah,
This is a report from Munis, I'd have to see if, just looking at it, it looks like that, the 64,000 is already included in there, but I can't say that for sure.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Tom, that requisition is sitting out there, it's approved, it's waiting to be printed. The PO is going to be printed.
Mhm.
Just waiting for the
That's
board-
right.
Yep.
for it to be approved
Correct.
On the 21st, or next 2 weeks.
All right, I couldn't hear any of that.
So that does not, yeah, you are correct, Larry. If Diane said the purchase order has not been published yet because we're waiting on board approval. So that 64,000 is not included in the 84,000.
Okay. But it'll
It'll-
make the deficit bigger.
Correct, yes.
That line, which then they just do a budget adjustment.
We will have to do a budget adjustment, correct.
There was a $92,000 savings.
When you see those monthly on the end of your board package, you see all the budget transfers.
Mhm.
That you'll see one of those come through eventually, yes.
Any other questions on the software? No, okay. Current projects within the district.
This is my monthly report, just showing all the projects in the district. We did not receive any new invoices for any of the projects, any of the application payments from the vendors, but then I just highlighted a couple of the smaller invoices from Dewey for each of the projects.
I had one question for you. Last month, we approved the final payment, and the board did for the floor at the gym because it was supposed to be completed. And I spoke to Lisa about it. And I was up at the school, and we paid for it as if it was done, and it's not done.
Which gym is that?
The high school north gym,
High School North Gym?
it's
Okay.
not completed, but we paid as if it was. So where it is if you go to the ramp when you go in, they didn't complete that. And then to the left is the water fountain, and they put down a mat. And around the mat is bricks, so it looks like a fire pit because they haven't,
They haven't done the trim yet, huh?
right. But yet we paid for it, that it was done. And that bothers me, because when it comes to finance, and they tell us it's done, and me as a head of finance says, okay, yes, I am comfortable moving it to the board to approve. It's my assumption that the committee that sent it to me did their due diligence and confirmed that it was completed, and it wasn't.
I'm not sure. That committee never completes or forwards any final payments
To-
until the punch list and everything
But
has
it's-
been
but
completed,
it's not
because
done.
there is always a some percent retainage
Right,
for that purpose.
right.
And
Hopefully,
and I can say that the Property and Facilities Committee has had discussions every month about that gym floor.
Mhm.
And Matt Hirsch has updated them on just what you said regarding the thresholds that they were
but now
ordering.
but now
and
the
that
kids are
mat-
using it, and it's not safe.
Well, it is safe. I'm not convinced that they paid it in its full entirety.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but
I'll
I can
double
check
and let you know
Rebecca, but
tomorrow.
I would think the Property and Facilities have at least kept the,
I hope so,
Are we
yeah.
supposed to keep the 10%, like a 10% or?
yeah, it's,
5%?
yeah, George.
Something I'm
and-
hoping, but yeah. So
So
my
I-
concern is if it's happening there, is it happening other places too, that we're seeing these bills to pay, then they're not done?
no, I say no confidently, because
Okay,
the Property and Facilities Committee is, you got Larry sitting right there, he sits on it, so they don't finalize those payments without all of those
My
questions.
recollection was, but I didn't have a chance to look up the minutes, but I thought Dave Refflinger and Josh said it was complete.
Well, they can't say it's complete when they just discussed at the last meeting that Matt just did a presentation on the fact that the thresholds in the mat that Rebecca's referring to have not been completed.
Okay.
That was just at the Property and Facilities meeting.
Yeah, and we started that over like probably
Summer.
8 or 9 months ago.
We could check though,
Yeah.
Rebecca, to see if that.
well, I know if someone went to do a wheelchair in, it won't go down the ramp the right way, so it's not accessible, it's gonna be a big bump for somebody to go in with a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But hopefully we don't allow we might not allow spectators, so it might not even matter, but if we do, then we need to think about that. Okay. And next on the agenda is request to bid.
There's just an annual formality from the business office asking the board to allow us to go out to bid for athletic, custodial, medical, tech supplies, and food service supplies. You just put a motion, we'll put a motion on the board agenda as long as you're okay with it. Allowing us to put it out to bid, and then we go through the formal bidding process, opening of bids, and then we'll come back, I believe in April usually, March, April, with the final numbers of what was awarded.
And these bids will be put out based on what we need, not just like taking last year's.
Correct. So our process is we send out information out to all the departments out in the district and buildings, and everything comes back to our office, and then we put it all together. And then we go out to bid saying we need these items.
So they'll inventory what they have first before they.
Correct. Yes.
So you go out to the different departments within the schools, they see what they need, and then
Yes.
And when we do it now, do we ask them, okay, athletic department, you're asking for 25 new basketballs. Tell me how many you currently have, and how many do do we ask what they have versus what they're ordering and how many they need? Or do we?
The business office does not ask that, no.
Because I know
We
last
put that
year
up
we
to
had the
each
issue where
director.
some of the spring sports ordered new supplies, but they had ordered new supplies the year before and never used them.
Mhm.
So that's why I asked, do they inventory first?
Yes.
Do we ask them to do an inventory list first?
That's why I asked, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think going forward, we should try somehow adopt a policy is if you're ordering, when you do this every year, we want a list of what you have.
Yep.
Maybe what you used last year and then versus what you're asking for this year. So like at the end of the year, you have X amount of, Band-Aids left for the medical supplies or ice packs or whatever. And now how many did you use last year? And you have 150 ice packs left and you still have a little bit of the year left. How many do you really need is my point. Because I don't want to keep ordering things, if we don't need them.
I agree.
So maybe we should have an inventory list set up
Think-
first, to inventory what they currently have, look at what they used last year, and then for when they anticipate what they're gonna need next year, for more accountability.
Yeah, I think the only piece I'd add is then we'll get into conversations of, do you need that many? And so you in doing that, you may also want to, if you have a number you want to, of basketballs that you think are appropriate as a board, you're going to have to articulate what that is.
Right,
Because they could say, I have 150 basketballs.
well, then the
And
question is, what kind of condition are they in?
you're gonna look at that as a board member and say, do you need 150 basketballs? I don't know the answer to that, but
Yeah,
if they're asking for 150, I'm assuming they're saying that's what they need. I'm
Correct.
making that up, okay? So
Right.
I'm not saying that's the number. I'm
Right,
doing
no,
a
I get what you're saying.
hypothetical. But clearly, we can ask them to indicate what's their current inventory,
right,
what's the total that they want, and obviously we
Right, and
we
what
know
did you
the
use last
difference
year?
is.
and disposable items, we also have to think of what we took last year and this year are going to be different because of the pandemic,
mhm,
because we didn't have people in school.
Yeah, I can tell you, Rob Romagno is doing a phenomenal job of all of the
Custodial
paper
stuff.
products and
Mhm.
so forth, and inventorying what we currently have, what we use on a monthly basis, as
Mhm.
much as you can determine that now, right? That's a little difficult, but
right,
and I think Tom reported this last month in reducing the numbers significantly so that we don't have,
right, so if we
a
can adopt that
huge-
That's what we
inventory
should
with all
use for the-
departments,
For figuring it out, yeah.
it'll be better, because then we won't be, buying, 1,000 Band-Aids when they already have 500 Band-Aids, in the nurse's office.
no,
I know we can't anticipate how many times the kid's gonna fall and need a Band-Aid, but,
I agree.
things like that.
All right, well, so we have athletics, custodial, medical, and tech ed. Well, what about like maintenance and grounds? Do they bid for what they need at a later date, or?
It depends on the items. Some of the items it's an emergency fix, so we normally would just run down to wherever, Home Depot, Lowe's, Kramer's across the street.
Yeah.
Some of their items are also under the custodial bid.
Mhm.
Um,
And they inventory their supplies as well regularly.
Yes.
You should
Yeah.
probably put family consumer science and with the tech ed.
Yeah,
Because they go through food and all, but you need to, at least you need to know what that is.
All
Well,
right.
they go out shopping, so that would be
Yes.
hard to
Budget.
budget that in for the food, kind of
Change-
consumables, the perishables.
Actually, what you need to, but they do, you need to budget stoves and sewing machines.
Well, that's always been on the principal of the buildings.
I know.
Supposed to be on their side to talk with their,
Okay.
the chairperson of that, of the family consumer sciences. And again, that doesn't always happen, but that's how it's supposed to work, is they're supposed to work with their building principal to have that safeguard of budgeting in case they need to purchase a stove here or a range top here. And I know it's happening because actually Diane came to me the other day and questioned JTL buying several, and I didn't think they need to buy several at this time. So we were looking into that.
Yeah, they were supposed to be doing them over the years and all, and they haven't.
Correct.
And they get to be expensive.
Yes.
All right, well, I've been giving this thought here for a long time, and, I guess I'll bring it up here tonight, but we need something in place, like, when we're out running around buying things local, okay? We need to have a if we'll just use a maintenance person as an example. If they need 8 or 9 items that they're running out of in their truck, or they've got a job coming up and they need 3 boxes of something to do a job coming up next week. Okay, rather than just go buy that stuff and then have the bill, sent to be paid. Okay, they need to write that down and at least have their supervisor look at it and hang on to that sheet. And then we have some comparison did those supplies get bought with no extras added, and did they make it back to the building?
If I'm not mistaken, is the work order system keep track of the supplies?
Yeah, but they also, to Larry's point, he's talking about if the maintenance guy runs to Kramer's and gets 3 boxes of outlets, how do we know that 2 of them are for the school and one's not for his basement renovation project? So
You said that.
no, that's what you're implying.
No,
I get it.
That's what you mean, and the supervisors, I think, do approve that.
They do.
So
They approve the
that-
timesheets, or not the timesheet, I'm sorry, but the orders. So we need to trust our employees and our supervisors that they are checking that information and making sure it's being used.
Yeah, but as a
for the
check and
district.
balance, you need the original paperwork that started it to compare to the bill that came in. Okay, if they didn't pre-approve it before somebody went to order it or pick it up, and then the bill comes in, it's like, oh yeah, I had that note somewhere here or whatever. We need something in place.
Yeah, but before that, I think, if we know what we're consuming on an annual basis, so if we're consuming 75 electrical outlets and 35 switches, and we're consuming, these are things that we may, and I'm using very small quantities, but for things that we use a lot of quantity of, we may want to put that out for bid right up front, knowing that over the course of a year, we're going to consume.
Right, let's
X
have them
amount
on
of
staff,
We may want to have a lock cabinet, quote, you said,
Right,
where the guys go, there's a guy in charge of that lock
and they
cabinet.
requisition
Guy
those
needs a switch,
pieces.
he goes in and gets a switch, but he writes it off and all, but there's somebody in charge of a cabinet or a bin or whatever you want to call it.
And I know it's harder. I mean, I know
I know a lot of facilities do that, but
I don't know, and I know that we took a tour of the maintenance plant stuff and facilities area, and there's just rooms with stuff in it, and it's been cleaned up since, like, I've seen the difference, and
right.
that's very good.
Right.
But I don't know, like, what is, how do we track that kind of stuff?
Like what
And
we
is
have
there
versus what we
is there a
need.
better way to do it that saves money? I don't know.
We can look at there are obviously barcode systems that you can barcode inventory of every
Right,
nut and bolt that you want to barcode and then it has to be scanned when it's inventoried in and scanned when it's taken out and a project number related to it. I mean, we can look at a system
right.
that would do that for the district.
But, and the question would be, would it save us money? Would it save us time? Is it going to add cost? Is it going
Right.
to, reduce cost? Those are the kind of evaluations we need to make,
I'd just like to start off with something simple,
Right,
just have, a maintenance guy go to their superior and say, hey, these are 10 items and,
Right, and if we
that,
can have the inventory of
that
what
we're
we've
running
already-
out of or whatever.
Right, and know what we have.
Yeah,
and not
I
buy
would hope,
duplicates.
I would hope our supervisor not signing an invoice for 10 outlets if they don't think they use them or need them. I mean, that's kind of what they're not just running to the store and buying something unless it's an emergency.
Right.
Without their supervisor's approval to buy the supplies. So then when that invoice comes in, I would hope that the supervisor, director
Right.
is saying, oh yeah, that's how many we bought. They're not just signing it off. Diane can attest, Brian might even, our AP staff, they will not pay an invoice if they don't get an email, a receipt, an email saying they received it, it's good to be paid. So, we're trying our best on our end, and I would hope the supervisors are doing the same thing on their end. If you want a tracking mechanism where
Just
you have a
inventory.
work order matching a invoice, you're gonna add time and cost to that factor, but how much do you want to spend? And if there's no sky's the limit, you can easily put a system in.
Well, the thing that brought it to light to me was a business down in the Lehigh Valley, with production and everything being down and whatever, and then and things being slow, they took some time to, the bills kept coming in and they were actually more than when they were running the place 3 shifts with a full crew on each shift.
Mhm.
And so they said, hey, let's look into this. We've had these concerns here for a while. And, they're out several $100,000 now that they went back through it.
I don't know if you listened when they were speaking, the auditors, but did you notice our supplies and our operations was down $1 million this past year?
That's when we started
And
doing
that's,
inventory.
that too, but no, it's because of COVID and we were shut down and we weren't spending the money. So if that number was the same amount, then we'd have some concerns here. But I'm thinking right now, that to me is showing that, yeah, we were shut down for 3 months and we ended up spending $3 million less.
Right.
So to me, I think in my mind is that we are doing a good job and we are protecting our assets.
Right.
But that's just me.
No, I agree. I just think we should just make sure we know what inventories before we do things out to bid. That was my whole point. Know what you have
No,
before you ask for it.
All right.
Any other questions or concerns about that?
No.
Rich, you look like you're thinking something.
No, I know where Larry's going with this, and I don't, it's not that I disagree or anything like that, just
It's
how do we
hard
do
to,
it,
right.
in the right way.
Mhm.
We have to allow our staff to trust each other and know that when they're signing off
Exactly.
on something, that means that it's true, and that's an important piece of this. But at the same time, are there ways to consolidate and add things to a bid to get a better price rather than buying
One at a time.
a couple things here, a couple things there, when they really could, save money if we did it as a competitive bid earlier on
Right,
and then receive the items knowing, anyway.
right. So I guess my point is if they knew what they looked at what you used last year.
Right.
And said, okay, do I need that much this year? And let's order extra supplies at the beginning of the year where we can get it cheaper, and then you just sign it out as you need it.
Right. And that's the thing. I don't know if we have a good sense of that with the maintenance side,
Right,
And I don't know if our system actually takes into account, like, if for work order documents, I replaced one switch and it was this type, and that's cataloged in some program where they can aggregate the information and say, right, over the course of the year, we use 365
switches.
these switches, you know, and I don't know how we.
And these switches need to be replaced every 2 years because they break, so
Right.
therefore we need to have,
X amount of switches, right, yeah.
I think that's a fair question. I can ask. We'll look into that. I mean, that makes sense, obviously. I hear what you're saying. If we're using a lot of something and we're piecemealing it every time we need it, we go buy one or two here or there.
Right.
If we can determine that, hey, we go through, 30 of these a year, then let's try to get a number
right, and we use
that's,
10 of these and 15 of these, we can order all of them together as
yeah.
one
So-
purchase rather than,
I would hope they're doing that now through the bidding, but I will definitely
Right.
work with
because
them
that's
to
something
see.
I see that we've been doing more,
Yes,
is actually saying to somebody, oh, well, what if we buy this many this time? Can we get it for less? And
Yep.
we've actually been successful with that when we started asking those questions. So instead of just running Kramer's and buying one thing, what if we went to Kramer's and said, okay, we're gonna buy this, 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 and this, what can you do for me?
that's,
And sort of in relationship to that too, we're buying a new lift, right? But I haven't seen anything, although I might have missed it, of changing out lights, to go with the LEDs. So I know obviously we have, important things that the guys have been getting caught up on and at the last property and facilities, we're pretty much down to 0 work orders. But, if we're getting another lift and things like that, we should be really looking to get the lights changed out to save money there on electricity.
I
I
think it's a
think
great
that's a
idea.
great property and facilities
I
conversation.
think on the lights, they decided to do as they need to, so they replace.
Well, the outside, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
they should-
thinking about
you
some
should
of
do
the
the same thing inside.
auditorium and the cafeteria lights.
It's not broken, don't fix it.
You should-
Right.
as needed, as they break down, you, just like we decided to do with the outdoor ones, is buy a lot of LED lights. And as the ones around the building start going down,
You switch them out.
just replace them with the new LED, just like we did with the parking lot. I think that it would be the best way to do it for the
Once
district.
we got them in their mind that when you change out a standard light with an LED, they started to do it. That was the biggest problem, was getting the mindset to change. Put an LED in when you change out the other.
Next item is the recommendation by the Properties and Facilities Committee to pay the following invoices from Dewey Engineering. We have all those H through H. And then Genie Portable Lift, as Larry just mentioned. The TERP Consulting invoice. And the purchase of the water wheel from On-Site Landscaping. Okay, what's a wonder wheel? A water wheel, what is that for? Like, what does that do?
Watering the fields.
Okay,
Oh, man, I thought it was like a
Like
water wheel that powered like a sawmill kind of thing.
I didn't know what it was, that's what I was asking, I didn't know what the water wheel's for. I knew it was something, but,
For the price of it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the price of it.
That's what it should be.
okay.
What is it, Larry? The on-site landscape?
It's for the field.
What type of water wheel is it?
For the landscaping, the fields,
Yeah, it's
like the
to water
softball
the
and baseball
fields.
field and stuff like that. And soccer,
Not the AstroTurf.
no, the practice fields and all that, so.
When we get the lift, is there a way to let me know when it comes in? I'd like to take a look at that in real. I'd like
Is it portable?
the
Yeah.
lift?
Portable.
Yeah, it's, you
Genie
gotta use like a
portable.
small truck around.
The water wheel?
Yeah, I mean,
To the
like
back of the,
2 guys can push it around and,
Yeah, but it's for all the fields, is it not? So that's,
No,
yeah,
is it for
some
both
down
north and
south
south?
and JTL, yeah. Predominantly JTL,
what about, pardon?
predominantly JTL. So,
Okay, 15,000 seems a lot for, is that-
The landscaping equipment,
yeah, well, that was, we started off at like 35 or 3,600.
that's what I thought a couple of years ago.
And basically, this is the same thing as what they wanted to order like 2 years ago.
Mhm.
But now they're ordering it with a 6 horsepower Honda engine on it to boost the water pressure up.
is that necessary?
I don't know. I tried to meet with him several times.
I know nothing about a water wheel. That's why I asked what it was for $15,000. Sorry.
Yeah. You know, I wanted them to bring the one from the south up to JTL and hook it up and see how far it sprayed the water out. And in 3 years, we couldn't coordinate that.
Did we ever get any literature or anything on it?
No, but you can look at them online.
Pardon?
You can look at them online. And then the sprinkler that we had that we were trying to water the baseball field and the football field up north with is one of the maintenance guys finally took the time to take the nozzle out of it and found out that it had a lot of
Correct.
debris in it. So that helped a lot. So, and my thing was there's two separate faucets up there on the fields.
Right.
On each, two up top, two down on the bottom on the ball fields. It would make sense to hook up 2 or 3 standard sprinklers than to buy one jumbo one, but.
Well, up north, you're gonna have that buildup because isn't north well water versus south is public water?
Well, the north, I'm under the impression that we probably haven't watered anything up there more than 2 or 3 times since the school's been built. Because that's all wetland up there anyhow.
Well, you don't need to. Kind of
Usually have to get water out.
Huh?
I know, right? It
We have
kind of
to
does it itself.
Pump the water out off the fields.
Yeah, we actually spent, prior to you being here, we spent 15 or 20,000 to have underground piping put in to drain the field because the one soccer field, they couldn't play on it ever. So we had a contractor come in and I don't know, we dug a couple 100 feet of trench and to try to drain it. So
You guys approved it, so you feel it's.
Yeah, it was approved 4-0 by property and facilities.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Well,
After lots of discussion.
but lots of discussion. But the bottom,
And Larry voted
Rebecca,
for
just
it then,
to
too.
clarify, right? Every year when the field dies, we spend thousands on fertilizer
Right.
and chemicals and seed and a lot of labor to,
At JTL.
huh?
At JTL?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, I'm hoping that even though we're paying $10,000 for a sprinkler
15.
or 15, that it'll offset all the expense and labor of replanting and trying to regrow the grass.
And it is a mess. I mean, that
No, I've
feels-
seen it. I know.
Right.
My daughter's practiced softball on there before too.
Yeah.
I think you'll still be buying grass seed and fertilizer.
But it'll take and it'll look better.
So, yeah, I don't think it'll be a complete offsetting of the cost, but I think, the amount of use those fields get in order to keep them green takes a lot.
And there were no recommendations by the education committees, except for the ingenuity, which is already on the agenda. Oh, we'll put that on that. We know this there already, so that's it from the education committee. Is there any public participation that you can see? No?
No.
Okay. Anything else on the board before we move our recommendations forward?
I'd like to bring up something. Larry had come to see me last week and he's talked about this a couple of times. I don't know, this seems to be the right place to bring it up. He's inquired about the purchase of 2 vans for students to do job shadowing. The district did approve the purchase of vans, I think 2 years ago, Tom, do you know, maybe?
It was about
It was through access funds and special education, so they're specifically for that purpose. I only bring it up because I know Larry has mentioned it to me several times, and I don't think it's a bad idea, but if it's something that the committee would like Tom to include in next year's budget, obviously it's discretionary, you can always pull it out, but I figure this would be the appropriate place to make that decision. that's something that the committee would be interested in, at least putting the numbers in there and
Or getting a bid to see what it would
getting
cost.
a cost to see what it is, if we wanted to go that direction.
Like one bus for north, one bus for, or van for north, one for south.
Yeah,
Is it, is 15 passenger van, a 12 passenger van, does it require a CDL?
I think 15, I think if it's 15, you have to have a CDL.
exactly.
Anything less, I don't think you do.
So what's the difference between just having the class or whatever use a regular bus
They can, yeah.
versus the, like a van? I don't know. What's the advantage, you think?
Well, the objection has been is that,
Getting a bus driver to drive it.
yeah, paying the bus driver to drive it.
So if we can do a smaller one, like a 12 passenger, where it would be a teacher who has this class that's gonna be doing
Right.
job shadowing,
Right.
can drive it.
We did try that. And
Well, but we tried that with the 2 special education vans.
but we still got grieved by
Agreed by the union.
the
because-
union because they want their drivers to drive it.
Will we need to have a 15-person van?
No,
No, and I think that's the
That's what I'm
point,
saying,
is
yeah.
a smaller vehicle.
No?
right. But most businesses,
What if somebody can use a regular driver's license?
And they don't, the
Right.
union,
but most
Does it want
businesses
the
down
bus
in the
driver
Lehigh
to
Valley and
drive
Philly
the
that
vanity?
volunteer because they'd love to have kids come in and see what it is because they
What
need
I'm saying, though,
abilities.
is we want a van that a teacher could drive, I'm using a teacher, a non-CLD person could drive versus, so we want to keep it smaller than that, I would think.
Or you get
right,
grieved by
but the
the
problem
union.
we're gonna face is
Like a
the bus driver's gonna say, well, I want that run,
Right,
correct?
but typically,
It's a
the,
possibility.
most businesses that you go to only want like a 10 or a 12 person group
And I don't question that. That's not-
because they don't,
And the interest of the class might not be all, I want to go see this manufacturing plant.
right.
Now, the question I have is, if we purchase this vehicle, will the union grieve?
That's what I was just asking.
Yeah,
Will the union grieve and
driver-
say, well, I
Of
want the
Of course,
run?
of course you're gonna agree.
and do we have a leg to stand on?
And then do we need to put the teacher that's driving it onto our insurance policy to drive the van?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a minimal cost.
yeah,
That's like,
yeah, that's,
there is an insurance
And
implication.
will the
there.
teacher want to drive a van that size?
You're in the weeds. I just wanted to bring up if you
Well,
wanted to add
no.
it to the budget or not, to consider in the numbers.
Actually, the
I don't
answer is I probably
disagree with
think
the
we should put it in
discussion.
the budget.
yeah.
I'm fine with it.
I'd like to know how much it costs for a 12
Right.
passenger or 8 passenger.
I would go with a 9-passenger vehicle.
Yeah.
Just because it kind of still sits on the smaller side.
Right,
Maybe like a high top or like a, yeah,
Ford Traverse, which is a little bit of a higher van.
yeah, or something like that, yeah.
All right, and my concern is, and which I discussed with Dr. Riker, today with the way businesses are and whatever, you can ride by a business and you see a sign and you have a building. Nobody knows what's going on in there. And the children today, they have, it's just remarkable. If they come into a place and they see something, there's always one kid that says, hey, this is, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. This is something that I think I'd really
Right.
like to do.
So as part of this, there really needs to be a curriculum side of it as well, or program side.
right, I think for
I mean,
the
Right.
So
education.
it's not only that, we're providing the opportunity for a teacher to take the van with students in it to go see someplace, but it needs to be connected to some kind of program or curriculum
Yeah.
goal
Oh, yeah.
that goes with it.
Mhm.
And I'll go yes for this right now, like, that's not a problem.
But-
Right, so how do we develop curriculum and programming that go with that, so that
To make
they
the
just
van
don't sit in the
useful.
parking lot and never get used?
Right,
Like
that's
the
my
tech-
point.
like
When you
the
can buy
tech
it, it's just gonna
teacher
sit
and-
there.
Right,
Would do,
exactly.
yeah, like the tech ed teacher would take kids out.
And they would have to sign it out as they want to use it, so if like, in
So there needs
class,
to be a policy that goes with it, there needs to be
right.
other pieces.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. And
So if
I-
you're in a finance
I mean-
class, you can look at a finance business. If
Like,
you're
we
in
put
tech
the
ed or
budget now,
engineering
just we have a
design,
year to talk about it.
right,
Yeah. The curriculum component, getting students to do, whether it's internship or job shadowing during the school day is something that we've talked about
For years.
and clearly want to get as part of it as we're building career fields and clusters and pathways. I know it's a direction, so I'm not saying it'll be there in the fall, but obviously getting that, moving in that direction is where we want to go, and collaborating with our local businesses so that the students get to see
Well,
those.
the program with the special ed people has worked real well, has it not?
Yes,
So we're just now making for the regular kids.
correct.
I mean, it's a natural, it's going the other way than what we normally do.
Okay, so,
And the class that I sat in down in San Antonio where, I mean, I've known this is going on forever. They've used it probably not to the fullest down in the Lehigh Valley, but anyhow, in San Antonio, you know, they discovered, well, no, them people weren't from San Antonio, but, you know, that's where we had the class on that. They actually, like, you know, teachers and volunteers or whatever, you know, would actually go, you know, work all the businesses, or they might have even worked there or had a connection or whatever. But they kind of networked it in the community.
right,
And they ended up, you know, with over 400 different businesses that they could pick the phone up and say, hey, you know, we'd like to bring a group of, you know, 8 or 10 kids in and give them the quick tour.
Well,
And,
the other thing is if
whatever.
it's a good way to get kids looking for jobs, because that's one of the issues we have is kids finding jobs. It'd be a natural for them to get.
and I'm
their
sure
foot
the
in door.
Chamber of Commerce would love to help us on that
Yeah.
program, and that's not a problem. So really what I hear you saying, Larry, is that we should direct the district to solicit quotes using CoStars or whatever for 2 9-passenger vehicles
To transport students should they need it.
to help develop curriculum and programming for
Internships.
internships and
That's good.
after, or apprenticeships or after school job and career
Development.
development.
And then we also need to get Dr. Vituli or somebody to work on a program to make it work for those kids. We have 2 things here, one getting the vans and one putting the program together.
That's right.
all right.
And that's part of the vision anyway. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Because we don't know
We're
what's
just
going to
kinda
cost, so we
helping-
can see the vision. to
Just
the
moving
end.
along.
right. So
And
do you
there's
have any-
there's a need for it
Right.
with businesses.
Sure.
I mean, everybody, you know, everybody would like to hire 6 more people tomorrow, but there's just nobody out there.
Right.
And the sad part is, yeah, nobody knows what they do. Nobody knows to go there and knock on the door.
Yeah, there's a lot of businesses that opened up. that have
And,
no
and,
idea
the,
what
and the
they do.
kids don't know what they want to do either. They've never seen anything,
Right.
you know.
So is that the motion you want to make?
To put a requisition,
No, it's not so much a requisition, but
a quote.
Right.
Yeah, they run a quote
Yeah.
for what it would cost for 2 vans.
Get it in the budget.
Stick
Yeah.
in the budget, right?
Right.
And, you know,
And there again, I
We
don't
can
have
roll it over.
I don't have a problem if we want to try to figure out what to do with the, you know, to use our own buses. If we can get that resolved, that's fine too.
But we got to make sure we have the drivers to actually do it when they need it, and we can't be scrambling.
Right.
We just buy one less bus. That'll pay for the 2 vans.
you'll pay for 4 more vans, I think, maybe, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if a 9, you know,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Larry made that motion. Did you get that?
Okay,
I'll second it if you want.
okay.
Thank you.
So we'll get a CoStar quote for that, Tom.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else before I do our advisory recommendations to move to the board, the full board?
Hang on. Where is this thing?
That's the education one, Larry.
That's the education one.
Independent contractor. Oh, the independent
But
contractor.
that's not, that's for education.
Oh, that's for education.
Yes, we can't talk about that yet.
Okay. All right, and what's the King's Spry?
That's education too.
That's education.
You gotta wait for that one too.
You're in the wrong meeting. He's in the wrong meeting.
Those are the 2 things he was questioning about. Like, you can't talk about those wrong meeting.
I got too many papers. All right, we're good.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to move forward the computer bids and financing to the full board. Okay. We have the additional licenses for ESASD.
Yes.
Do we need to get permission from the full board to do the bid? Okay, a motion to move forward the request to bid for athletics, custodial, medical, tech ed supplies, and food supplies.
Yes.
A motion to move forward all the bills.
Yes.
Yes,
And do we need to get the full board approval to get quotes for the buses, or, I mean, the vans are not yet?
Am I just getting quotes, or am I getting the quotes and adding it to next year's budget?
I would say, let's get the quotes and then we can decide if we want to add it to next year's budget.
So
So,
then, yes,
It's a
that's the
two-step
full
process.
board to,
So do we want just the quotes first, or do we want
yeah,
to
we
wait?
want the quotes first and then.
And then
come
next
back.
month, we'll decide if we want to move it forward?
Yeah.
That's what I would
Okay.
recommend.
So we're not going to move that forward, we're just going to get the
yes,
quotes today.
you want the full board to direct the administration
Right,
to
but-
seek quotes for 2 vans.
Okay, so we're going to direct the administration to seek quotes for 2 vans.
Mhm.
Just quotes. Okay. Let me write that down. Okay. Anything else that I missed? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you're
You're good.
Okay. And then our next meeting will be
But we need a motion.
a motion,
second,
my
right?
motion for all those items I just mentioned.
so moved.
second.
Okay, our next meeting is going to be February 8th, 2021, same place, same time, here and via Zoom. And I thank our Zoom people for attending, if there's anybody still watching.
Was there anybody watching? Dr. Vituli doesn't count.
He's part of the group.
Several on.
Okay, so thank you to our YouTube people also for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time to attend our meetings. And do I have a motion to adjourn? I have Rich
Second.
and George. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see everybody next month. And don't forget, Education Committee meeting is Wednesday at 7. So please feel free to join that as well.
And that's a Zoom one.
That's all on Zoom, yes.
Good night, everybody.